In the beginning. In the beginning. That's how every good story starts, right? We all have a story. This is my disc golf story with different people I've met, different courses I've played, different companies I've represented, different sponsorships, and so forth. Um, so I got started in disc golf around 2007. My mom and I were taking a trip from Iowa, where I born and raised, in around my birthday in 2007, sometime in August. We were taking a trip up to Minnesota to visit my brother-in-law Jose and my sister Laura. When we got there, they handed me 3 discs and said we are going to go disc golfing. I was like, disc golfing? What's this? The 3 discs they handed me, I have 2 of them still from way back in 2007, were a Lightning #2 putter. This company doesn't even make discs anymore. And a DX Beast, as well as an Innova Coyote, which I no longer have. So they wanted to take me to a course called Lakewood Hills, which is in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. And I think the first throw I threw, because I used to throw regular frisbees forehand. So the first throw I threw with the DX Beast, and I just saw the S curve flight, and I think I was hooked pretty much from then on. But funny story from that first round that I played with my sister and brother-in-law is my mother has an artificial leg, so she wasn't able to walk the course with us, but we got to an opening on the course, and my sister's like, "Mom, watch this." So she goes to throw, and we all grip lock sometimes. She grip locked, and it zoomed right by my head. So she almost took my head off in the first round that I ever played. Uh, as you can see, Hawkeyes fan. Like I said, I'm from Iowa. Uh, my local home course became Veterans Memorial in Dubuque, Iowa. It's a very hilly, heavily wooded course. Uphill, downhill, curves, trees lining the course. Very difficult par, and I want to say it was right around 60, maybe 62 for a par overall in the course. And then my other course that I played was about 30, 40 minutes away from us in University of Wisconsin, Platteville, Wisconsin, and they had a course on their campus. And that one was the exact opposite. Very easy, par fours, threes, fives. It was a lot easier than what the Dubuque course was. As I started to play more and more, I started, like most of us do, accumulating a few more discs. Although it wasn't too many. I think for the first 13 years, I probably only had 10 to 12 discs total. But a disc that I wish I never would have traded into the Teddy Pedler when I moved to Myrtle Beach is an Innova Boss that was beat in beautifully. Didn't have the stamp on it anymore because it was well weathered and well used. Um, but it was one of my favorite discs. Fast forward to, or right around 2008, I went to visit my brother-in-law and sister. They were living in uh, Marshfield, Wisconsin. Sorry, couldn't think of the name of the city. And we took a little trip. We took a trip to Big U Plain in Mossany, Wisconsin. Uh, I think the sun was going down. We were on one of our last holes, and I remember Jose throwing a disc, and it hit a tree real loud, and this big, beautiful owl just, spread its wing and soared over top of us. So we thought, that was pretty cool. Then on the way home, as we're driving, I don't remember if we saw a deer or what we saw, but we were like, well, at least it wasn't, or Jose said, at least it wasn't a turkey running out in front of us. I kid you not, about 2 minutes later, this turkey takes off sprinting across the highway. And I'm glad Jose was driving because he saw it coming, and we joked that, well, good thing we didn't say that it was a moose or something worse. Between 2008 and 2010, I introduced two of my good buddies, Justin Durant and Mac, to the sport of disc golf, and we, especially me and Justin, played a lot of rounds at Veterans Memorial Park. Uh, Battled back and forth. Sometimes he'd play better, sometimes I'd play better, but I always enjoyed my rounds with him. All right, from 2012 to 2015, I lived near Daytona Beach, Florida, where I went to chiropractic school and met my beautiful wife, Pam. The two courses I played there were Tuscaloosa Park and Reed Canal, which Reed Canal I liked a little more because at the time I was a beginner and I was not confident, and there was a bunch of water holes at Tuscaloosa. Uh, awesome parts are I got my first two aces at Reed Canal. The first one was on hole 2. Funny story about that is my buddy Dan at the time and I had played that course a bunch of times. Quite a bit of the first few times we played it, the basket was pin position was on the left. The next quite a few times we played it was like all the way on the right, and this time it was somewhere in between. Didn't even know where the basket was, and I threw it, and we heard that beautiful sound that we hear when we hit an ace, and we both started freaking out. I'm glad that I didn't have a Sharpie on me because I was one of those novice amateur people that thought it was a good idea to sign the basket, but I wish I would have known to sign the disc and to keep the disc because I no longer have that disc. And then a year or so later, I also aced hole 5 at the same Reed Canal Park in Daytona Beach. First two aces, they were pretty amazing. If you have been paying attention this long or have checked in this long, I want to know what your first 1-5 discs, however many you got, are. What courses were initially your home courses? And when did you get your first ace? And on what hole? What disc? What was your reaction? I look forward to hearing those. So I told you from about till about 2015. Well, in 2016, my wife and I moved to the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania, and we lived close to Nob Hill Park in Wexford, Pennsylvania, as well as Shenley Park, which is in the middle of Pittsburgh. I frequented Nob quite a bit. Very hilly, wooded course. Kind of cool part about it is it has 3 different tee pads. And I don't remember if it did at the time when I was playing there, but now it has 3 different pin locations as well. So a good mixture for the novice player, the beginner player, kids, and the professional. So if you're ever in Wexford or Pittsburgh area, be sure to check out Nob Hill Park. So getting to now year 2020. This is where the real fun begins. My wife and I were called by God to move to North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for her to open her chiropractic office, Move Mountains Chiropractic, in the middle of the 2020 pandemic. It's a big move, but we have a big God. So he called us here. We said, yes, Lord, and we moved on down. For my birthday, or a few days after my birthday, I wanted to go disc golfing. So I checked out Socastee Rec Park. Holy cow, were the mosquitoes psychotic the first time I went. And the drainage was horrible at the time. But boy, am I glad I went. I got connected via their board for the Myrtle Beach Disc Golf Club Facebook page. And I never even knew that there were tournaments. I never knew there were professionals. I never knew how popular the sport of disc golf actually was. So I started playing my first tournament in September of that year, 2020, at Sockasty Rec Park. I think there was like this much water on almost every hole because, like I said, the drainage was not great. But nonetheless, I had a blast. I want to say I had a rating from that first tournament of like 804 or something like that. But kind of cool thing, I went to Sherwood Park disc golf course. Very short, 9-hole course. All of them are par threes. And I met this guy named Bone. I was like, Bone, that's a weird name. Kind of an interesting fella. You know, at first I was like, who's this guy? But the cool part was he was telling a story about somewhere in Wisconsin, and I was like, oh, like, where are you originally from? And he's like, oh, my wife and I, we lived in Dubuque, Iowa. I was like, Dubuque, Iowa. That's, you know, I lived there for a few years going to school. My family lived close by to that, and I know Dubuque, Iowa well. So he started telling like where he lived. I'm not going to mention streets or anything, but I was like, oh yeah, it's by this park and off this street. And he's like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. And we've had pretty good connection, me, Bone, his wife Minnie, ever since. It's a small world, and again, we have a big God. He makes those connections, which is pretty amazing. At this time, I had a mixed bag still. At the end of that year, I was rated 843, I believe. Um, so my next tournament or two must have been a lot better than my first one. Mixed bag, I got my PDGA number, I think a couple weeks before that first singles tournament because I played a doubles qualifier for USDGC, which I had no idea about. Um, but I was like, man, I can get competitive in this. This is awesome. All right, so now we're moving into 2021, and I applied to be on Team Focus, which Bone was the founder of Team Focus. You know, our goal is to spread the love of disc golf to those around us wherever we go, to make it affordable, and just love on everyone that we come across. Which, for me, it's pretty easy to do out on the course. That's one of my favorite parts about disc golf is just getting to meet new people, getting a connection, getting connected on Facebook or through the phone, whatever it might be, and just keeping in touch and continuing to love on them, encourage them, and grow the sport with them. So as I said, I applied and I got on Team Focus. So I was pretty excited about that. So I was still carrying a mixed bag at the time, but for some reason I was drawn to try to switch my bag over to Prodigy at the time. I became a member of Disc Golf America, who Lee was the founder of that. I started a team, which I was pretty excited about, and I bought my first disc from him. I think it was two PA3s, M4, and I believe a distance driver. I was one of the very few in the area to throw all Prodigy. So a lot of Thursdays we would go out and play casual random dubs, and I slowly started becoming Mr. Prodigy, and pretty cool. Richard in our club, can't really see it too well, made me a shirt. It was originally a Prodigy shirt, I believe, or he stamped it himself, but it says Mr. Prodigy on it. So shout out to Richard for the awesome shirt that you made me. I appreciate it. And then shortly after that, I got updated to Mr. Prodigy because of the sweet Team Disc Golf America shirt that I received and the C on the Cubs head. So I became Captain Prodigy. That year, 2021, mostly playing local. I think I had one tournament outside of my local Myrtle Beach courses in Richlands, North Carolina. One thing I remember about the tournament is there was no tree coverage whatsoever. The OB was lined pretty much fairway to fairway. So if you went in the woods at all, you were OB. If you went on the road at all, you were OB. If you went off any part of the fairway, you were OB. And it was just as windy as can be. You'd be going one way and it'd be 40-mile-per-hour tailwind. You go the other way, it'd be 40-mile-per-hour headwind. And at that time, I knew nothing whatsoever about flight numbers, about how to throw in headwind, tailwind, crosswind, swirly wind. I knew nothing about that. Um, so I just remember being confused on what exactly I was supposed to do to combat the wind. Uh, One of the things that happened that year was I don't remember what month it was in, but I kind of got an ace on hole 19 at Soxty Rec Park. I use the quotations in the kinda because different people have different meanings of an ace. Some people say it's only the first throw ever off a tee pad and nothing else counts. Some people will say as long as you're on the tee pad it counts. So I use that because I was playing around with Daryl Matthews, and we ran into Jay, Nick, Joey, and maybe someone else. I don't remember. And then there were two people that were like playing their first round ever at Sockesty, or maybe their first round ever in general for disc golf. And the one guy afterwards said, "Man, I almost got my camera out," but we all teed off for our last hole, and we're like, "Oh, let's all throw one more." So I threw I think it was a D1, Prodigy D1, 4 or 500 plastic, and forehand, because I'm a forehand dominant player, and it just went left, like to the right of all the Mandos, and came in and just slammed into the basket. And we all started freaking out, and unbelievable. Both the guys that were watching us on the tee pad were like, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool." Had everyone sign the disc, and like I said, I call it a kinda ace, just to not hurt anyone's feelings. That year was the first year that I played the Myrtle Beach Open, which is an A tier. And I believe out of 60 people, I finished in 8th place, which was pretty awesome because that was probably one of the better tournaments I had played in my young tournament career. I finished the end of 2021 at 890 rated. So from the previous year, I made I think like a 60-point increase, which is pretty awesome. The goal of any sport that you play in or any competition is always to get a little better. So to see that increase was encouraging, and it helped boost my confidence. This is part one of in the beginning, the history of me playing disc golf, how I came about the sport, how I progressed, who I've met. Let me know a little bit about you, a little bit about your disc golf journey. Did you learn forehand or backhand or a little bit of both? Or I know I've run into people that are specifically like tomahawk or thumber players, and I think it's important to have jack of all trades, which I'm trying to do, learn a backhand and some overhands, but I think it's important to love the way you play. So I've always loved throwing forehand, so that's why I'm forehand dominant, but I'm trying to add backhand and overhand into my arsenal. Important to have that tool bag if you want to keep climbing the ladder. Let me know if you have any questions, any comments, whatever, any feedback. Love y'all. Jesus loves you. Thanks for checking in. Be on the lookout for part 2 coming in the next few days. Thanks for tuning in. Love y'all.